The Referee's a podcast with Jack and Kelly too. Scottish Championship class, they give us the show. Footy tales from the pitch, controversies they scratch. Every moment they'll itch, no call left to bash.
Here we go again, everyone. We're back, and you can see us again as well. We're back in the video format too. We've recovered from our various illnesses, etc. Looking a lot more presentable, I think. Hopefully you all agree. Jack Curry, as always, here also by my side. So, how are you this week, Jack? You got anything to chat about this week, maybe?
Doing very, very well, Cam. I've had a good week at work. I've had a good day today. I had a chippy for my dinner.
Nice.
So that was extra nice. You know, good bit of haddock supper.
Is that because I put you on a time limit today?
Yes, that's
Nice.
Exactly why. That's
Nice.
exactly why.
You're
So
welcome,
said
then.
we have to do the podcast at this time. Exactly. So you forced me into it. So it was absolutely delightful. But yeah, Cam, really, really excited. You know, as you said, back doing the podcast proper. You know, second week in a row. So it feels good. Back in video format as well. So I hope anybody who watches us rather than just listening, you can appreciate that. Is the two clowns talking about football sound still behind you, Cam?
Of course, always.
Excellent. And how's your week been?
Yes, very good. Been quite busy in work. There's someone off on holiday, so it's just been a little bit hectic, but the day's absolutely flying by. And I'm off Friday this week as well, so technically tomorrow is my Friday.
Very nice.
By the time anyone listening to this podcast, I'll have already been finished my work and then off for a long weekend. So yes, my excitement will start to happen from then on rather than up until this point. I've got a wee works sort of dart event thing, which will be good, a wee VIP table, and then obviously we'll come to it a bit later on, but Friday night football, so I'll be involved there. And who knows what Saturday and Sunday will bring, but been a kosher week so far, and long may it continue.
Absolutely. And we both had wins obviously at the weekend there, so we'll get on to that as well. But
True.
as predicted, Cam, we spoke about on last week's episode, there was the big kind of Scottish Cup preview in the big sort of Scottish Cup weekend.
Yes.
And we kind of says there shouldn't really be any shocks, but oh my, there was. There was a massive one, but we'll get on to that in just a little bit there. I think it's actually a really appropriate place to start, not only alphabetically, but in terms of the result. Airdrieonians 4, Hamilton 0.
No, you're wrong.
I was getting... Well, am I wrong? Oh, yeah, you played in the Friday. I do this all the time.
As soon as you said going alphabetically, I was like, theoretically, yes, you're going alphabetically, but there's only the one game.
No, you're right. Use one in the Friday. Tell me all about it, Cam. I mean, I watched it on the telly. I enjoyed watching it. But it wasn't the most classic of classics, but it was a good performance from yourselves in the end. You kind of played to the conditions well in the second half with the swirling wind and whatnot.
Yeah,
what was your impression in getting to tick off a new ground in Lithgow Rose, and what did you kind of make of them as well, as much as Queen's Park on the night?
Yeah, no, I mean, we arrived to the stadium quite early. I got a lift from my brother, and he just vastly and overestimated how long it would take, or maybe just left way too early. We got there a wee bit early, so we're in the ground seeing like the warm up and stuff, and first impressions, they were out first warming up, and they were warming up with quite an intensity, like immediately you're looking at them and you're going, okay, this is a fairly well run is the wrong word, but you know what I'm trying to say, like it's operating well. And then the game started, and it was sort of more of that. It was like, oof, this is a wee football team here, they're playing some stuff. Had some good moments, especially in the earlier portion of the half before we sort of grew into the game, as it were. But yeah, they certainly looked a good opposition, and then obviously they get the goal as well, and it's like, oh, I've seen this before.
Yeah, and we spoke about it, obviously off air when we were kind of catching up at the weekend. It wasn't great defending my Queens for that first goal, was it? And we both kind of commented on Ewan Murray, who was so deep. I mean, I almost, when I thought back on it, maybe you actually need to put some blame on Ferry as well, because he has to scream at his defence not to drop that deep. But Ewan Murray was inside the 6-yard box when that cross came in. It's inviting pressure.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't an ideal goal. Luckily, though, we didn't do the usual thing, which is, then let the levels drop. Heads drop, levels drop, concede again, and then by that point it's essentially game over. That just compounds the issue again. But, the boys got back at it, and then Ewan Murray gets credited the goal. But we've now seen the behind the goal camera that was set up, and the ball clearly comes off of the Linlithgow defender. I had to maybe question whether it maybe comes off of Fowler, but it maybe comes off his arm or something, and that's why he doesn't try and claim it. But no, it just comes off the back of the Linlithgow player. So big goal to bring us back into it, going in at half-time 1 each, and then second half, like you mentioned very astutely, the weather was in our favour in the second half. We were now playing totally with the wind rather than against it, which we were in the first half. You saw it especially with their keeper's goal kicks and punts. He hit it very high up in the air, and then it would sort of hold there and then just start coming back down, sometimes even back sort of towards him. The wind was quite strong at times, so certainly that was to our benefit in the second half. A few more balls to run on to, and a lot more energy in and around the sort of opposition third. So obviously we've managed to then convert that to get the 2 goals in the second half. Grant Savoury back on the score sheet for I believe his first time since returning from the long-term injury sustained by playing against Partick Thistle 2 seasons ago in the playoffs.
A hell of a long time ago, but he looked really good, Savoury, didn't he? Especially in that second half, and
definitely.
Even the ball he put in for Fowler, was right on the money. So if you can keep him fit and get him firing again, he's like a brand new signing. For
sure. I mean, the thing is as well, when he has been playing, he does look good. Like you see him on the ball, he's quite quick with his feet. He's good with the ball. He can, generally speaking, hold on to it quite well and move forward, pass the ball quite well. But yeah, he's not been looking as dangerous. So certainly nice to see him, because Aidan Connolly could have very easily taken a second hit on that and scored that goal, but instead he sees Grant Savoury bearing down on the ball at speed and goes, right, okay, it's yours. And Grant just lashes it in before, like you say, he then gives the decisive assist to put the game to bed at 3-1. And from that point on, it just sort of looked, fairly standard stuff, seeing out a victory 3-1 through the next round of the Cup. We'll take that all day long. And Linlithgow's, I think when you hear Linlithgow, you're like, it must be quite far away. It's only 40-minute drive away, so it was, blast up there, blast back, easy peasy.
Nice, yeah, and they're going pretty well, obviously down in the Lowland League, as well. So it could have been a tricky tie on the night, but he's navigated it pretty well. And you're obviously through to the next round, and I guess the kind of main hope now from a Queen's Park perspective is trying to carry that form back over into the league.
Ideally. We've been struggling, obviously, generally speaking, in the league. We'd like to get some more points on the board, so yes, fingers crossed that just gives them a wee kick in the right direction, and take some of the things that they put to action there and bring it with them. So yeah, fingers crossed. We can only hope.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Well, especially actually just before. Sorry, you're going to talk further about the match?
Well, I was just going to ask you a wee bit more about Linlithgow. So, right, on you go about whatever your point was.
No, I was just going to say, fingers crossed we can turn it around in the league, because I'm sure some people at home will have been seeing some further off-field Queen's Park news in terms of SFA looking to purchase our stadium off us now as well, or the second time they're wanting to presumably strong arm us into selling our only asset. So yeah.
And what is the word on the ground from Queen's Park fans on all this? Like, what was the kind of chat at on Lithgow Roads?
Well, it hadn't. I don't think it had been out by then. I think this only got announced, or not announced, but came out in the paper over the weekend. Maybe even as late as Monday. I remember being in the talks somewhere in and about the weekend. I don't think it happened pre-game, because I didn't hear any chatter about that.
Right.
But yeah, Pine Bovrow's not pleased about it. Everyone's talking about how it's a wee bit sketchy that how involved Willie Hoy is in all of this from the inception of this whole going professional. The SFA buying of Hampden in the first place with Hoy money, and then using that money to pay Hoy's company to build his Royal Box and finish off the stadium. And now Willie Hoy's backed SFA is in discussion with Queen's Park, backed by Willie Hoy, about it's just who knows what's happening.
It's a bit of a mess, isn't it?
It all seems just that little bit sketchy.
Yeah.
So we're obviously in a tough position. Willie Hoy's pulled his money, so I think I can't help but imagine this was all part. I'm sure I said this to you. I don't know if I said it on the podcast or whether it was just off air, but I can't help but feel that Hoy had a longer game plan in play than what he was letting on and what was publicly being said. He's obviously a clever man. He's made a lot of money. I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's
It was always one of those ones from an outside perspective. You did always kind of think, why? Why just turn up to, League Two, Queen's Park, invest all of this money, get them up the leagues, and then just leave.
Yeah.
That was kind of the whole part of it for me.
Especially
really
as well, not
understand.
having his name anywhere. He wasn't theoretically on the board. He was. He's basically ran the board because his money was the life of the club. But he wasn't on paper anywhere near the club theoretically. City's all over the place, but Hoy's name doesn't appear. He wasn't really taking credit or anything like that. So maybe he was waiting to see if it worked before taking credit, and then when it wasn't working, just went bah. But like I say, he's a smart man.
I think it has worked. Like, the thing with Queen's Park though is that, for me at least, from an outsider perspective, it has worked. I mean, like, in terms of Yous were in League Two, yous have turned professional, yous have now stabilised yourself as a championship team for 4 or 5 seasons, and obviously yous have, got your own ground, quotation marks.
Well, the plan in its state, obviously, it's not worked because it was supposed to create a self-sustaining club based on player sales, but the club is not self-sustaining as the money is now being pulled away, and we've had to slash our budget by 6 or 7, most of it, down to $1 million a year from 7 or something like that. I can't even remember the figures now. It's mind-boggling numbers.
Yeah, but it was a saving of something like $6 million a year,
Something
which is just
like that.
crazy.
So with the talk of it being part-time next year at best, I can't help but feel we've been placed into this position on purpose by someone with an agenda.
What it does make though, from a footballing perspective as well, just when you mentioned that point there, is it makes survival in the championship even more imperative for a purely financial perspective. The drop in finances, and I don't really mean from competition prize money, but I suppose actually the point's not really as valid for you, and I don't really mean that as a dig, but
you can't have
the
any
away
fans
crowd,
in.
yeah, exactly. But the potential sides of crowd of the championship is massive compared to League One.
Well, if you look pure and simply, now I don't know what the funds are involved, but no TV money. Not that you get a huge amount of TV money currently, but it's more than zero. So that's just a straight loss immediately.
I know there is some games on BBC Alba still for League One.
Yes,
but there's been a lot of controversy around them this season. I think I seen a game, was it last week? I think Queen of the South were away to Peterhead at 5:30 on the Saturday, for a BBC Alba game.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's beyond a joke,
that is mad.
Anyway, so we're diverging into a different point here.
Yeah.
But it's one of those ones where for Queen's Park, the point is you need to stay up.
Yes.
Pretty much. You know,
it.
and you look at the table just now, Airdrie are improving. Ross County, we keep saying must get better, even though they aren't showing any life. For me, the one is you're almost banking on Morton not making the right appointment next. You know, they're in a bit of a transition zone now.
Point.
So it's going to be interesting to see what will happen. But yeah, I think Cam with the Queen's Park saga is what it can probably be called. Will be rolling on and on for a wee while now. So I think we'll park it there.
Yes.
And come back to it for another week. But what we'll do is we'll go through all the rest of the games here, listeners, and then we'll give you a wee rundown of the draw for the fourth round, which obviously has happened as well, and then we'll preview the upcoming league matches. But I tried to talk about this fixture.
Yes, you were coming in hot on the Airdrie Hamilton game, so blast through what your thoughts were there, if you can think back the 15 minutes that we've been talking about the rest.
Well,
of it
I remember obviously last week in the podcast when we were kind of talking about this game very briefly. And I was sort of saying, it's going to be really close. Hamilton are going pretty well in League One despite the points deduction, blah, blah, blah. And you were like, nah, Airdrie will scoosh this. And you were right. You know, a comprehensive 4-0 victory. I think it was all 4 goals coming in a 25-minute spell in the second half. Absolutely fantastic victory for Airdrie, as we've spoken about now a couple of times, especially under Aaron Taylor-Sinclair. They look like they're improving, and a 4-0 statement win certainly doesn't scream like struggling bottom of the league side there. No. What do you make of that game? Obviously, we've seen from a Hamilton perspective, which not really getting into, but obviously John Rankins walked after that, saying that, you know, the club are a bit indefensible. So obviously a Hamilton Accies where players aren't getting paid. How much does that kind of come into it as well when you're bearing in mind the result, or should we just ignore that and heap the praise on Airdrie?
Well, the one thing that I've just noticed that I want to heap the opposite of praise onto. Have you seen the attendance figure there? I
did, right, but I don't think that's right, because
340. I did see a picture of the Hamilton fans at
so did I, and there was a decent number of them.
Well, I remember thinking, that doesn't look like very much, but then I thought that's probably what Queen's Park's away attendance at most places looks like.
I would really struggle to believe there was that little. I think that's a typo. Because just judging on what I've seen from Hamilton,
isn't it? It's just sort of there's like, what is half? I could maybe understand the Hamilton fans not going but then as soon as you started saying I was like, I saw too. I also saw.
Yeah, I would believe if that was meant to be 845
or 1345, and they've just not done the one.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I'm not believing that. So. If anybody listening, Airdrie fans, well, there may be no Hamilton fans listening to this, any Airdrie fans out there, let us know what was the attendance, because the BBC are trying to claim 345 here, so we're not having any of that, and we're sticking up for you. But very impressive for Airdrie. I think that's 2-3 wins and a draw Taylor Sinclair's had now in 5 games or so. So he's doing very, very good job, and
he's doing the business
they're only a point behind County in the league. So they're certainly the team to keep an eye on. Another team that got a win at home without conceding a goal was Ayr United.
They did.
As you would expect, 3-0 Turriff United. Not exactly. I don't think they're one of the powerhouses in the Highland League, but their fans would have certainly loved it. The whole town or village, whatever Turriff is, would have certainly loved it as well. But what do you make of it from Scott Brown's perspective? I think he'll probably just be pleased that they got through and they got a clean sheet.
Yeah, I mean Sorry, I was looking on another app to see if I could see the attendance, and I'm scrolling down. It's at women's leagues and stuff, and it's still not got to the Scottish Cup yet. So I'm just back to giving you my full attention here. Yes, I think he'll be thinking, we needed to go out, we need to do the job. We've gone out, we've done the job. Looking at the stats, they've done it extremely convincingly as well. 3-0 is a good scoreline, whatever way you look at it. Even if it's against a lower league team, doesn't really matter. 3-0, that's a good game. Maybe looking at the stats, there could have been more. 21 shots, 10 on target, 73% possession, missing a penalty. So they've obviously been fully on top of this match. They've got to 3-0. Actually, there was Dom Thomas quite late on getting that 3-0. But they've obviously felt pretty comfortable, pretty confident, and they've not been pushing the boat too hard in order go try and get 6 or 7 goals. They've got the 3-0. I'm sure they'll be very happy with that. They'll be happy with their performance. But it's again just a case of a much stronger team coming up against a much weaker team and just doing what needed to be done. So yeah, Scott Brown will be certainly pleased at that. But again, it's playing in a much lesser opposition. So I would try and suggest to them not to get too over the moon about it. It's a good performance, but all they've done is what was expected to be done. So fair play to them. Good job getting the win. But that's just a tick in the tick box exercise. Right, okay, round 3 done. Move on to round 4 now. Easy peasy. And yeah, I'm sure I'll just be a bunch of happy chappies.
Couldn't have summed it up any more perfectly, word for word myself there, Cam. I think that's exactly what we'll say and where we'll leave Ayr United.
Perfect.
And I think, to be fair, the words can be quite similar for Ross County
Yeah.
here. I'm not going to heap too much praise on them. We know Bankswood, we spoke about them. They're not even a Highland League side, I think. They're whatever league they're in the North East, up in Aberdeen. But fair to Ross County, they've been in horrific form. Everybody, was saying it could be a banana skin. We weren't having it though last week where we were still expecting County to come here and win, and they did so. Ronan Hale and then Jordan White kind of late on. Again, as you said there, they didn't win 4-5-6-0, but I think with this Ross County team, that's probably about as good as you can expect just now.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really looked at this prior to us looking at it right now. They didn't really dominate in the capacity, especially the capacity that the stats show that Ayr dominated the game against Turriff. Only managing 8 shots in 90 minutes against Banks of D is not really crazy. It's not. Yeah,
it's not obviously
it's
like
not what you'd expect of
a
a championship team. Yes, they've again went out. They've got the win. Again, it's just get through this game. We'll go to the next game. Maybe there's the payday game there. Who knows? But yeah, Ross County have done the business. But it's still, looking at it, it's like, for the level of team that they're playing, it's still just about done it. I can't help but feel for Ross County there. But at the end of the day, they've made it through to the next round of the Cup. There's no goal difference for the Cup here. So, at the end of the day, you can win 1-0, you could win 5-0. It doesn't matter. They've done the business. They've got it. They're through to the next round. Cool. Good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, just looking at that. Now, it might have been a completely different story at the game. We've had, what was it, an Arbroath fan message into us once before because we'd said, looking at the stats, it looked like Arbroath, weren't in the game very much, and they've, maybe stolen the result. But they got in contact to say, actually, at the game on the day, there was no question. Arbroath were going to win that game the entire time. So you can't, maybe the stats don't do Ross County justice. Maybe they're passing the ball around like prime Barcelona, tiki-taka and about the pitch and just taking their time and picking their moments. But I don't think that was the case, really. Do you?
It's funny though you've referenced prime Barcelona, because genuinely I was going to bring this up. Spain Park, Banks of D's ground in Aberdeen. I'm really curious as to where they got Spain Park from. If there's anybody listening who knows the origins of Banks of D's ground and why it's called Spain Park, I'm really hoping it's not just because it's on Spain Road, but Spain Park, Banks of D, please do let us know, because I think that's a cracking name, isn't it? Something for everybody to think about their holidays. So absolutely, Ross County, as you said there, Cam, I've gone cruising into the next round. And then that takes us on
not a good reason. I've just looked it up. We're not going to have to wait for the answer to this one, Mr. Jack Curry.
Oh, do you want to tell me now?
Yeah. Well, I think this is it. Actually, now that I look at it, the picture is not of a football stadium, it's of a park. Is there potentially a park next to this place? But it says the park, when it was finished, was named Bernie Spain Gardens after one of the key campaigners. But I can't help but think that's maybe not the same park. It's just another park called Spain Park.
Spain Park. Well, somebody listening, if you can clear it up for us, then you can let us know. But yeah, from Spain to Dunfermline, which is where
Yes.
everybody obviously wants to be in life. All the action happened here, Cam, in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You can say Dunfermline kind of scraped through, but they bounced back from one of the Todds popping up with their own goal.
I was going to say,
just
yeah,
4 minutes
they
in.
scored all 3 goals in this game. What are you saying? It's technically 3-0 Dunfermline.
Well, exactly. One of the Todds put the wrong end, and then Chris Kane popping up with a double. And then obviously, kind of not really too sure. Obviously, what happened from there, whether it was kind of game petered out, whether Dunfermline, dominated and were close to adding a few more on there. But a win's a win for Dunfermline. Not spectacular by any means, but they're grinding them out, and I'm sure Neil Lennon will be absolutely delighted with that.
Yeah. Again, well, this is the first one that we've talked about where the teams are a bit more closely matched. Obviously, Queen of the South are not a championship team anymore, haven't been for a wee while. I think we touched on this last week as well. But they're still a team of a much closer calibre than Turriff or Banks of D or Linlithgow Rose. So they'll certainly be pleased about that. Maybe not that it was only 2-1. I think maybe once they've gotten that second goal in the 15th minute to go into the lead, I bet at that moment they're thinking, right, okay, let's crack on now. We've reset the game and then we've went beyond that and it's still only 15 minutes in. We've got a long time. Let's put the foot down a little bit now and just score another goal or two. It's obviously not worked out that way in the end for them. It's just managed to hang on the 2-1 all game long. Dunfermline certainly had chances, obviously. There's 15 shots, 7 on target. But like you say, I'm sure Neil Lennon will be happy that they're through to the next round of the Cup. We'll obviously touch on shortly the next round and look at who got each team. We won't go into any depth about it, but we'll come on to that shortly, and we'll see how all the championship teams will be faring in the next round. But for this round, Dunfermline have managed to do it. Do you have any thoughts on the Dunfermline, how they're getting on so far?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the last game before the Cup was the midweek defeat at Firhill, which seen us go level on points with Johnstone. I think, in that game, I think edged out Thistle deserved victories, but Dunfermline certainly had a couple of chances in that one and weren't the worst team to come to Firhill this season. I think, as you kind of mentioned there, they weren't playing a non-league team. They weren't playing a League Two team at home. Queen of the South are decent, they're full time. So I think any win's a decent win. But I'm sure the Dunfermline fans would have liked to see an extra goal or two.
Sure.
But they're not going to turn their noses up at a win. So yeah, I think Dunfermline are on a good trajectory. And they'll just be kind of focused on keeping that going.
Yeah.
But talking about being on a good trajectory and keeping it going, Cam, Thistle, it's been fantastic.
I think you might have missed one there.
I've not. I don't think so, have I?
You have.
Oh, I've missed Arbroath. I've done this twice.
You just
Arbroath,
jumping the gun. You don't want to hear about Queen's Park. You just want to talk about Partick Thistle. You just skip.
That's why everybody's here. We don't have any listeners from Arbroath, do we?
I've just talked about the Arbroath listener.
We
spoke about him literally minutes ago.
I know, I was taking the piss. We've got a loyal band of Arbroath listeners.
I actually know an Arbroath fan in real life. I don't actually know whether he listens to the podcast or that he even necessarily knows he exists. The guy I used to work with, Callum. Callum, if you're watching, well done so far this year. I don't like that you beat us though, so get up you. But Arbroath, they had a win in the Cup. The Dick Campbell reunion tour.
That's what I was going to say. It was definitely a banana skin. For Arbroath, going away to East Fife, away to Dick Campbell's team.
Yeah.
But they done magnificent, coming away with a clean sheet. Against a good East Fife team. I think that's a cracking result there for Arbroath. They'll be delighted with that one.
Yeah, no, definitely. They've, like you say, with Dick Campbell being involved, it could have so easily gone differently. East Fife appear to have had a lot of the ball as well. They've just not managed to do very much with it. Arbroath much more clinical with their possession. Not quite as much of the ball as East Fife, but they've managed to make it count and make them pay. And they've went away. I keep on wanting to say with the 3 points, but with the progression to the next round of the Cup, just doesn't have quite the same ring to it, does it?
No, not quite.
They've made it through. again, as expected for the most part. Everyone probably looking at it and maybe going, oh, yeah, no, like you say, maybe a potential banana skin. But realistically, when you look at it on paper, Arbroath should have won that match. Arbroath have won that match. Arbroath have progressed to the next round of the cup. So, brilliant work from them. It's obviously tough to go away to some of these weird teams. So, they've done the business, and yeah, congratulations to. I nearly said Dick. Not congratulations to Dick, the opposite.
Yeah, commiserations.
Commiserations to Dick, yeah.
Yeah, it's not perfect. Does that mean I can talk about Thistle now?
You can go and talk about Thistle now. I'll let that happen.
Fantastic.
Oh, no, Curry, sorry, you missed this.
What have I missed now?
Nothing, I was just fucking with you.
Edinburgh City or something?
Just fucking with you, mate. Just fucking with you.
But mate, what a time it is to be a Thistle fan. It's great. Watching us beat St Johnstone, the Saturday before was such a high. Following that up with the win against Dunfermline was the most un-Thistle thing to do. That's usually where we would slip up. And again, a potential banana skin away to a solid League 2 team in Forfar. And we'd done the job comfortably. I think when I wasn't there, but I spoke to a couple of the boys that were, and kind of the consensus was that it was not a classic, but a deserved solid, if you like, Thistle win. And I think the goal right at the end has obviously made it look a wee bit more comfortable as well. Yeah. Ben Stanway, though, one of my favourite players from the last few seasons. I think any fan's got a bit of an affinity with a player that comes through your own youth system. But he's just such a talented, good young midfield player.
Yeah.
He's always had a good tackle. He's always been tenacious and a good engine. But we've seen this year, and we've heard about it in interviews, the one-to-one coaching that he's benefiting from Alex Ray, specifically on adding goals to his game, and he's up to a few already this season. And so it's fantastic to see. And it's just a type of player that you hope. I think his contract's up at the end of this season. We're hoping that you can see him sign an extension, and even if that just means that come the summer, you get a chunk of money for him, rather than seeing him go for nothing. So it's one of those ones where there's a lot of good things going on at Thistle just now, and I think the next stage of this is ensuring that it keeps going this way. We've built ourselves to a really, really good point. Now it's about maintaining where we're at, and if we can keep doing that, especially we've got a favourable draw in the fourth round of the cup, so it's opening up potential for a run there, potential of more money coming in as well. We're looking strong in the league, so without getting too carried away with myself, Cam, it's a nice place to be.
I thought you're moving towards I don't want to get too carried away with myself, but we're going to win the league and the Scottish Cup this year or something like that. I was going to go, right, what's happening?
I'm not quite on that stage yet.
No, you don't think you're going to win the Scottish Cup this year?
I'm not putting my house on it. I'm not putting my house on it, but I've seen Thistle play in a Scottish Cup semi-final. Was lucky enough. I'm old enough to have seen us play at a Scottish Cup semi-final. Obviously, we lost that day. So, the cup's all about a bit of magic, Cam. I don't think any fan of a lower league team's ever going to have any hopes or aspirations of winning a cup. But you always kind of dream of, a quarter final and beyond, doing what Queen's Park done last season.
You can win what is no longer called the SPFL Trust Trophy. We won the SPFL Trust Trophy. I think it was it wasn't the SPFL Trust Trophy. It was the
was a Challenge Cup.
The McDonald's Mickey Mouse Super Extra Special People's Cup.
And then you lost it as well, didn't you? So have you been in it because you've been in it twice?
I think so. Yeah, I think we lost it too.
But yeah, so we're still in that as well. So yeah, it's one of those ones where it's good just now for Thistle. It's good just now for Wilson.
Cup now, isn't it? It's the
KDM Evolution Trophy.
So is that Dunfermline's sponsor? Is now also the cup sponsor? Or is that just a different KDM? Because their stadium's KDM.
Are they Dunfermline? Oh yeah, so they are. Yeah, maybe it's the same group. I don't know. So what you're saying is if Dunfermline win, there's a conspiracy?
Yeah, I think so.
We'll see.
They're obviously directly paying the refs through their sponsorship. That's if like Willie Hoy was going out and paying all the refs. People would go, "Oh, hang on a second."
exactly. There would be commotion.
The Hoy Cup.
The Hoy Cup, and we've got that coming up. It's not this midweek, but it is the following midweek. So
Oh, is it that
we'll
soon?
give a wee.
Oh my goodness.
Oh wait a minute, yeah. Are we due talking about it this week? Oh, we are. Yeah, we'll need to talk about the Challenge Cup as well, Kim.
Okay. We're gonna have to start. We're gonna have to start barreling through this then.
Because that's on Tuesday the 9th. So let's get cracking.
Yeah, we need to barrel through that.
Yeah. Right, okay. So we're going to get on to this. Morton, they're through. They got a penalty shootout win against
I didn't know. I just we're barreling through. Right, okay, they won. Brilliant. Okay.
No. Well, because there's a more serious point. I was actually battering through the result because there's a more serious point to the Peterhead Morton game was I don't know if you've seen it online, but the racial abuse suffered by Tommy Adderley, which I think I can't say for certain, but I think factored into his red card.
Yeah.
But he got a double. I think racially abused, sent off. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible to see. And Peterhead put out a statement, and then I seen a tweet cam that whoever was on Peterhead socials during the game made about Tommy Adderley as he got sent off, and it hadn't been deleted. I don't know if it has been deleted, but at that point, whether he didn't hear or didn't know about the racial abuse, but basically made a bit of a jibe at Tommy Adderley for getting sent off, and the reason he got sent off was because he was like racially abused and reacted. So it's like it's just unbelievable.
It's a bit of a wilderness up there in the northern parts of the country, isn't it? There's obviously those stories about the Elgin neo-Nazis, and I think maybe just if you're up that far north, you just go a bit cuckoo with the cold or something like that, right?
It's like that Still Game episode where they're talking about what the Scandinavians do in the winter, and they just say they get pissed.
Exactly.
But I think justice has prevailed. Morton through 5-3. Yep. What a tumultuous week for the club. With you would have seen everything on social media about the leaked voice note of one of the Morton chief executives. What he made about Dougie Imrie, where basically Imrie said he didn't want to leave. Then the leaked voice notice came out. It's a mess, Kat. It's an absolute mess at Morton just now, and they've came through with a penalty shootout win. So I think any Morton fan who went up to Peterhead, we kind of need to salute you just now. You got your win in the end, and we kind of obviously opposition team in the league, but you're kind of interested to see what's going to happen next for you and the club. So I don't know if you've got any more to add there, Cam, but I was just almost going to leave it at that.
No, just a well done to any of the Morton fans who made the trip up to Peterhead. It's obviously a bit of a journey, so always hats off and salutes to the travelling away fans who will follow their team to the outer reaches of the planet up in Peterhead. Yeah. So fair play to the lot of you. I'm glad you managed to take the win away and progress through to the next round, despite, as Curry mentioned, all the off-field problems. So like you say, league oppositions, but this is the Scottish Cup, and you're not playing against me, so fair play, well done. Next, Wraith.
It's such a weird transition going into Wraith with Imrie, isn't it, from Morton? Because that's just luck how it's came Peterhead into Wraith.
It is.
But I think as what we can say is probably the most Imrie win possible. 1-0 against a lower league team at home. If it's going to set up what Wraith Rovers probably are going to be like, it's probably this game. Although, what I will say to give him a bit of credit here, judging by the stats, if we can trust them, Alloa didn't register a shot on target for the full game. So he's obviously kept Wraith solid, as we know what he can.
Yeah.
He's going to give them a really sound defensive base to work off of. And if he can get them firing in any attacking sense, then that could be a dangerous prospect. But let's not get too carried away. It was a 1-0 win at home against part-time Alloa. It's good, but it's let's wait and see what you can do when it comes to the proper stuff.
No, definitely. I think you're correct there. He's obviously managed to do something in terms of their defence, not conceding a single shot on target. It's always a good sign, regardless of opposition. To manage to stop them getting a shot on target for the entire game, that's pretty big. They've only scored one goal, but they seem to have had plenty of chances. Forcing 5 goalkeeper saves. So you know, it's one of those ones where maybe in another day they do get 2 or 3, but you know, it's first game in charge. I'm sure he'll be mighty happy that he's got the win. He's not lost his first game in charge and been knocked out of the cup. They've got the victory. They've progressed to the next round. And, you know, I'm sure it won't be long before we're back to saying Wraith have a good team and stuff like that. Hopefully I don't know about hopefully, because obviously now we're talking about league form and competitors, but, you know, you don't want to see them being too tumultuous and, you know, ruining what a good team they are and such, you know.
You know, I know we're going to batter through the rest of this quite quick. The only point I want to make on Wraith that I thought about that was a slightly intriguing point in my mind about Imre coming in was Wraith's problem this season has been a lot more going forward than it has been defensively. You know, you look at them in the league, they've scored less than a goal a game. You know, they've only conceded 18 and 16, but scoring less than a goal a game isn't great.
No.
You know, Morton have also scored less than a goal a game. You know, so if you're judging on Imre coming in to get Wraith Rovers firing, he doesn't look like he's that type of manager.
Yeah.
So it is going to be interesting to see if, you know, whether the problems Wraith have had are going to be the same, or, you know, are they just going to become a team that they grind out 1-0 wins all the time, you know? So for me, it's an interesting one. I've seen a lot online about it's an unbelievably good appointment by Wraith. I'm not quite in that camp. I think it's a decent appointment for Wraith, but I wouldn't go any further than that at this stage.
I think at the very least it's, you know, done fairly quickly, and they've gotten a championship proven manager. I think in that regard it's a good appointment, but I think I agree with you in terms of he's not necessarily the man who's going to get them, you know, playing free flow and attacking football and scoring a shed load of goals. But yeah, it'll certainly be interesting to see how it goes. Obviously, he's got a different pool of players at his disposal now. Does that maybe change the way he approaches it? You know, has he played a certain way with Martin for so long because it was much easier to get a player of the sort of caliber that he was wanting, you know, big bruiser sorts of players with you know, a little bit of something in his locker. Now he's maybe got a few more tricks, you know, so we'll certainly see how that develops as the season goes on. Is he able to turn Wraith Rovers around and get them firing again? Who knows?
Yeah.
But moving on, is this just one more game? Just one more game, I believe.
Yeah, the big one.
Yes,
yeah,
the big one. You talked about it earlier on. It was the upset.
It's difficult to put your finger on really what happened because, you know, St Johnstone, you know,
Mitch
going 1-0 up.
That's what happened.
That's what happened.
Mitch Megginson. That's what always happens when you're playing against Cove Rangers. It's always Mitch Megginson. He's the Rory McAllister second gen.
Yeah, no, he's like almost like the evolution of Rory McAllister that's kind of been reborn again.
Yeah.
But it's also an interesting point here for Cove Rangers, Cam, because I don't know if you spotted their 2 new signings through the week.
I didn't.
That they also brought off the bench. You know, that I'm sure most Scottish Championship clubs certainly wouldn't turn their nose up at. But Greg Stewart and Chris Maguire, you know, 2 very experienced players there, you know, coming on. So certainly an interesting one, you know, there with them two. Having that wee bit of experience, obviously Maguire getting the assist here, it says, for the goal in extra time. What do you put this down to for St Johnstone? You know, the week before, or the game before, sorry, I should say, you know, they lost a top of the table clash against Thistle. You know, this was, I think I used the words last week, the perfect game for them. You know,
you did.
To play at home against Cove Rangers, and at half time, 1-0 up. I'm sure Valaraki was thinking the exact same thing, or Valakari, I always say his name wrong. But
yeah,
they you know, we can't go and say, you know, St Johnstone are in free fall, St Johnstone have collapsed. It's 2 games, but it's 2 big losses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're out the cup and they have now lost their lead at the top of the table. It's not been a good end to November for them, is it?
No, it has not. I'm sure they'll be hoping that they can turn it around quickly, but that's a huge defeat for them. Obviously, more acceptable for them to lose the game to Partick Thistle, much, you know, very close to each other at that time in the league. An away game. This was not. This was the opposite of that. This was a lower league opposition at home, while you're, you know, top of the championship. So, you know, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff that they've managed to throw that one away. Like you say, that's them out the cup now as well. Not that I think it's as big for them that they are still in the chance of getting a payday from potentially a Rangers or Celtic away sort of scenario, but it's never nice to lose in the way that they've done it. Mitch Megginson getting the fairly late equaliser to push it to extra time and then losing to a goal in extra time. It's certainly not a good look for them. While obviously, like you mentioned, they were looking to bounce back, and this was the perfect game for it, and they've just thrown that away. So it's kind of weird to think about what's happening with them, what's going through the heads of the St Johnstone players, and what their approach will be to the games coming up this weekend.
Definitely, and I think the point for me is, Cam, is this was St Strongest, basically St Johnstone's strongest team on paper that started this game, and in terms of, McPake was there, Gullen was there, everybody, McAleer was there, Toby Stewart was in goals, it was their team, Valaraki picked the strongest 11 that he felt possible to win the game. How worried would you be if you're a St Johnstone fan after these two games, or do you just think, guys, what he's talking about, we're still technically top of the league, there's nothing to worry about?
I think more of the second one. I try not to worry too much about the cups in general. It's the cups almost are there just to throw a wee bit of an upset in here and there, and it's bound to happen. You come up against a really hard working wee team and you get a wee bit of luck, and it goes against you. So I wouldn't think too much about it. Again, the Partick Thistle game was a much more reasonable game for them to not win or to lose. This one less acceptable, but I don't think anyone's jumping ship or anything at this time. I think everyone's still firmly in the boat with the manager and the players, and knowing that it won't be long before they're going back to doing what they have been doing up until this point of the season. They're certainly not in a great run of form overall. They've been a bit patchy of late. They went so well for the first 8 or 9 games or something like that, and then it just sort of fell off the cliff a wee bit in comparison to how well they were playing. So I'm sure that ability to play like that's still there, and I'm sure it won't be long before it rears its head again. Certainly an unlucky one for them, but I don't expect that to impact them too much, and I'm sure they're not going to miss going to another round of the Scottish Cup.
Their big issue is the goals have dried up. That's their big issue. They are technically still the top goal scorers in the league, but when you look at the last month in particular, I think they scored one goal away to Queen's Park. They got one at Firhill, one at home against Cove. They aren't scoring 3, 4, 5 like we've seen them earlier on in the season, and they are still conceding at the other end. Yeah. So it's one of those ones where Valaraki has to, get the strikers shooting boots back on and get them back on quickly. But talking about, because I can see Cam time's flying on here. Yes. So what I'll do is, the Scottish Cup draw literally, in my opinion, gave us a bit of everything. So I'll just rattle through all of the games here for the listeners, and we can talk.
Up on my screen, so it's all you.
So we've got Wraith Rovers have been drawn away to Aberdeen, so definitely a tricky one for the game Ray there. An all-championship clash as Airdrieonians host Arbroath, so that's obviously we'll see one of the Scottish Championship sides go through there. Another Premiership away day for one of our sides as Ayr United travel to Dundee United, so that's a tricky one there. It is Dunfermline hosting Scottish Premiership Hibs, and what will also be a tricky one, but a great one for Neil Lennon, having Hibs coming to town where he's obviously managed, so that'll be really, really interesting. Next on the list, Thistle. As I mentioned earlier on, we've got a bit of a favourable draw, home to League One Montrose. Yeah. So we're pretty happy about that one there. Morton, they're on the road. They have got a pretty tricky away tie, actually, to high-flying League One Stenhousemuir. So that'll be an interesting one to see how that plays off. And not last but least, your side, Cam, Queen's Park, I've got a lovely away day.
Not last but least.
What did I say?
You said not last but least. It's
the
opposite.
They are last but anyway, I fucked it, listeners.
We're the least. Anyway, I get it, we're the least.
You're the least important, that's right. You're at the bottom. Yeah. But you've got a wee away trip all the way down to Stranraer.
Lovely trip to Stranraer.
I think Not on the 17th of January, though, I'm sure.
No, lesser so, of course. We had Stranraer in the Stranraer away in the what it wasn't the Premier Sports called the Premier Sports Cup then, whatever it was called before. Was it the Betfred Cup or whatever?
Yeah.
Whatever. We had them in the group stage, and it was the first game that we played, and it was still like fucking July or something like that, and it was sunny, beautiful day, and it was brilliant. You're right, it's not going to be as exciting in January, but still
pretty not bad draw. I'm sure you'll be expecting to dispatch of a League Two side.
Certainly hope so.
But what we'll do, Cam, even though we're doing this in a slightly odd order, we'll just quickly stick to the Cup, and I'll rattle through Tuesday's KDM Evolution fixtures, and then we'll get back to league action to round things off.
Yes.
But on Tuesday, we've got Thistle travelling away to Cove Rangers. St Johnstone are away to Hearts B, so I'm not sure how that's going to work, where Hearts are playing that game, but will be interesting. Ayr United are hosting Peterhead, which is a brutal one for Peterhead fans on a Tuesday night. We've got Wraith Rovers hosting Hamilton Accies. Queen of the South are hosting Dunfermline in a quick rematch from their Scottish Cup tie at the weekend. Morton are away to Stirling Albion. Your side, Cam, Queen's Park, you are playing host to Clyde. Ross County are at home to Celtic B. And Arbroath are playing Kelty Hearts at home. And finally, Airdrieonians are playing Alloa. And that's all the interest we're going to give the KDM Evolution Trophy and what it deserves.
Well, let's just very briefly, what is your thoughts on your draw for the KDM? Seeing as these are actually games that are going to happen before the next time we podcast, we'll just at least talk about our games very briefly.
I mean, I should go Cove Rangers easy. Just dispatch to St Johnstone.
Yeah, so but so have you.
Yeah, so have we. So I mean, going up to Cove Rangers, it's a weird one, Cam. If this will get to the final, I will not be saying I'm not bothered about this competition, because obviously you want to see us win a trophy.
Of course.
I couldn't care less. If we go and lose, I really couldn't care less. I just want us to focus on the league and the cup. But if we win and have a great run, fantastic. We should beat Cove, but you never know. What about yourself? Home against Clyde. Are you quite pleased to have a wee bit of something to do on a Tuesday, an extra excuse to go out and watch your side play?
Generally speaking, yeah, I like that for sure. Clyde are actually our rivals, seeing as they're the only Glasgow team, and you can't see me, Jack, but I'm air quoting all over the place. The only Glasgow team that's been anywhere near us division-wise for 50 years or something. So they're our rivals. So yeah, nice to get them. Always nice to get them, provided we beat them. I think they did beat us in a friendly this year, maybe, if I remember right.
But I mean, you have got a bit of good history in the competition, so there's potential for you to kind of emulate previous success, whereas Thistle, we've never won the competition. I think it's 1994 the Challenge Cup became a competition, so we're talking more than 30 years. So, there's potential for, one of our sides to go out there and do something this year for sure.
Aye. It's usually a championship team that takes it, there's no reason it can't be Queen's Park, or it can't be Partick Thistle, or it can't be Arbroath. It's that's the little bit of joy that you get in the Challenge Cup, where your team are in with a shout of winning it. You just progress through your rounds, and all of a sudden you're in the final and you win the final. There's a trophy right there. It's now you play the Premiership team. It's nice for that. So very nice. We'll be going to those games. Well, I'll be going to my game. You're presumably not going to your game.
No, I'm not going to Cove on a Tuesday night. No, not from Carlisle.
Don't fancy going to Cove on a Tuesday night. No,
I'm going to Ayr on Saturday though, so I'm looking forward to that.
But that's like round the corner for you.
What? But anyway, we'll go on to that. But league action, Cam, because I'm really, really keen to talk about it, because it's actually a massive weekend for some of the fixtures that we see. But we're kicking off. You're on the telly again.
Yes.
You failed to get on the telly 2 weeks ago, so you're fair making up for it. Back to back now. But away to Morton. How are you feeling about this one? Obviously, at this stage of recording, still not have a permanent manager in place. Are you kind of a wee bit more confident going in, knowing that Imre's not there, or how does that kind of change your mind on it?
I mean, yeah, probably a little bit. You're still playing Morton at the Capello, so it's hard to get over that little aspect of the mindset of it all. not having De Gea is probably to our benefit, but at the same time, I don't imagine too much will have changed, especially if they've not got a new manager and trying to make changes. It's just sort of keep it going as it is for the time being until we bring in someone who's going to do whatever they're going to do. I think for the time being, it will still very much be almost a Martin of old. Maybe if there's extra stuff happening behind the scenes, maybe their minds would be slightly elsewhere, but I think at the end of the day, they're all professionals. They're going to continue to play the way that they have been playing, and I think we'll probably expect a bit more of the same as normal from Martin, at least in the next couple of weeks at the very minimum.
And you were saying to our listeners you've got Friday off, so that's specific. Is that specific to go to the game, or is this your work day out as well? Is this a big combination for an exciting Friday?
The work events of the Thursday night, there's free drink involved. I was not going to work the next day, and it just so happened to also be a Queen's Park away day. So, yes, it's worked out beautifully, and I'm going to be very drunk for 2 days. That's going to be good.
Fantastic. Well, you can give us the update from both the night out and the Queen's Park away day on next week's podcast. But swiftly moving on to the Saturday action, Cam, and I've already mentioned, almost the kind of billing fixture here. Ayr United hosting Marseille Thistle. It's my favourite away day. It's my favourite ground to go to.
Nice
down to Ayr. It's fantastic. Again, kind of mentioned like you with the Stranraer. I don't know how great it's going to be in December. But we'll soon see. But
fine.
Ayr United, even the work they've done to the ground, Cam, we've spoke about it before. It's fantastic. They've kept the oldness of everything whilst a bit of modernisation. So Ayr United, whilst we've criticised them, and rightfully so, they are sitting third in the league. So they'll be looking at this one where it's an opportunity for them to try and close the gap on the top two. Try and make it a kind of three-way fight, but. This is the type of game. Thistle 11 points clear. It's never an easy away day down to Ayr, but we'll certainly be going into this one confident and looking at nothing other than 3 points and trying to keep the pressure on St Johnstone.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what it's all about now. You've got up to them on level points. The next stage is, trying to get ahead of them, but in order to do that, you need to keep pace with them first. So you'll be needing to go tough away days and get the points. So this will be the first step on that journey. You manage to go Ayr and take the points, then there's that little bit extra confidence moving on with the rest of the season. Outside of that, we've got some more Saturday games. These ones I don't think we're going to talk about with any depth. We're just going to say what they are, and then we're going to swiftly move on to the predictions, where we can maybe make a slight bit more comment about the games here. But the other Saturday games, we've got Dunfermline at home to Arbroath. We have Ross County at home to Airdrie. And we've got St Johnstone at home to Wraith Rovers. So...
yeah. There was no predictions last week, though, was there?
There was no predictions. There was no predictions, so we're just going on to predict for the upcoming week here. Starting with our two games, it's me to go first this week. So we've obviously had a little bit of comment in there on Morton against Queen's Park. From my reasoning that I gave, I'm going to give a scoreline of 1-1. I'm still expecting the same old from that lot for the time being.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go the exact same one each. I can't see anything other than that.
Yeah, it just seems like what's going to happen. It's Capello. That's where 1-0s happen. So next up, we've got Ayr against Partick Thistle. Obviously, you touched on it there. Tough game, but one that you're sort of hoping that you can go and do the business. I think it's going to be 2-2 in that game.
Pretty terrible. I was sweating there because I thought you were going to go for what I was going to go for yet again. But I'm going to back my side, Cam. Yep. I said I'm going to be there, so I'm going to back a Thistle win. I'm going to go 2-1 Thistle.
2-1 Thistle. That's locked in now. Next up, Dunfermline against Arbroath. Now, I'm expecting this one, Dunfermline, to be winning this fairly comfortably, fairly commandingly. Arbroath are obviously in a good team, in a good position, but Dunfermline feel like they're coming up. They're on their way up. In Arbroath, we've still been expecting them to start dropping away gradually. So I think Dunfermline 3, Arbroath 1.
Yeah, giving Dunfermline a pretty solid win there.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you that I think Dunfermline will win. but I don't think it'll be quite as convincing. I'm going to go 1-0 Dunfermline.
1-0 Dunfers. Perfect. Ross County against Airdrie. This one's just... Who possibly could ever know what's going to happen between these two? I think, despite the fact they've not been particularly good at home throughout this season, they've not really been good anywhere, but at home seems to be particularly not great for them. I'm going to give Ross County the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to put them down for a 2-1 victory.
Yeah, again, this is really difficult. You know, if you asked us any of this game before the start of the season, you know, I'd be saying 3-4, 5-0 Ross County.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for a draw, Cam.
A draw.
I just think Airdrie are in good form.
Yeah.
Ross County are still far too patchy for me. I've backed them to win too many times and they've let me down. I'm going to go 2-2 in this one.
2-2 there. That's in the books now. Last up, St Johnstone against Wraith. A really, again, tough one to really sort of place and work out where St Johnstone are and work out where Wraith are, or at least are going. I think I'm just about giving St Johnstone the benefit of the doubt here that they're going to return to winning ways, and I'm going to go 2-1 St Johnstone.
Nice. I'm not. I don't know why. I'm going to predict Imrie to start as Wraith Rovers league career basically where he left off as Morton won, and I'm going to go 1 each.
Fair enough. That seems reasonable. So just to recap there, Morton against Queen's Park, we've both went for a 1-1 draw. Ayr against Thistle, I've went 2 each. You've went 2-1 for your team. Dunfermline against Arbroath, we've both went for the Dunfermline victory. I've went more confidently, 3-1. You've went for 1-0 Dunfermline. Ross County against Airdrie, I've went 2-1 to Ross County there. You think it's going to be a draw 2-2. Last up, St Johnstone against Wraith Rovers, newly appointed manager Dougie Emery. I went 2-1 St Johnstone. You have went 1-0 in that game. So everyone playing at home, keep track of your scores. We'll come back and update you next week with who won all the points. Yeah, fingers crossed you'll come back and join us for that one. That takes us to the end of the podcast there. I incorrectly labelled last week's as 15. I think this one is 15. So thank you all very much for listening. And we'll talk to you all again next week.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks everybody listening, tuning in as always. We really, really appreciate it, and we hope whatever game you go to, you enjoy this weekend, and we'll see you for another episode next week. Thank you very much.
Right, see you all later. I gotta run.